Okay, welcome back. Hope you had a nice break, and thank you for joining us back in. People are still slowly joining, so we are going to be letting them into the room slowly. But we can proceed now with the agenda, where we are moving into the panel discussion on the impact of mobility experience on Erasmus Plus alumni. We are going to have a panel discussion with previous exchange students who are now employed in various fields and who have had various career developments and experiences on the labor market. And we are going to hear more from them about how mobility and experiences during the mobility have influenced their professional development, and how they have managed to use their mobility experience on their CV in order to find jobs and to develop themselves professionally. In the panel discussion, we have six members of the panel, starting from Iona, who is joining us from the UK, and who studied law, but is currently working in the international team at the Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce, where her responsibilities include communication, events, and research, and she's looking to develop a career in educational mobility policy development. And she did her Erasmus in Sweden. We have Margarita, who is joining us from Czech Republic. She studied civil engineering and worked in IT consulting before becoming a founder at Oaza Rustu, personal development program for youth. And she's also a co-founder of Pardubička Koza, which aims to bring nature into the city. And she did her exchange in the US. Following her, we have Petya from Bulgaria, who is currently working in consulting after finishing her bachelor in economics and finance and master's in big data analysis. And she did her Erasmus Plus in France. Anna is joining us from Poland, and she took an opportunity to go on mobility 3 times through the Erasmus Plus program to Germany, Spain, and Portugal. And she went from studying international business to marketing and communication. She has held various positions and worked in diverse fields, ranging from social media project leader over purchasing customer representative to a member of the knowledge management team. Pikria, she's joining us from Georgia, and she has been studying energy and electrical engineering, and she's currently employed as a lead engineer developing renewable and alternative energy projects. And she went on Erasmus Plus twice, both times in Poland. And Rebecca from Malta is currently doing her master's degree in international peace studies. She has previously worked at the European Parliament and at the United Nations, but she's still trying to discover her true career path. She did her Erasmus in Netherlands. Before we started though with the discussion, we again have a quick question for the audience. And it is, have you been on mobility? So we will again ask you to join our Slido. The code is the same, 391452, and answer the question of have you been on mobility? Yes, no, but you are planning to go in the near future, or no, you haven't, but you are interested and you would like to receive more information. We will give it a few seconds for everyone to log in and to answer. You can stay logged in afterwards, because this is where you can also ask questions to the panelists in case you will have any after the discussion. Since during the panel, we are going to hear more about the student experiences and how students perceive their mobility experiences when trying to join the labor market. Okay, I can see that 100% has already been on mobility, which is very nice. So I'm going to give it a few more seconds for others to log in and answer this as well. Okay, it's still a full 100% yes, which is of course nice to see. Okay, seems like it is full. Oh, we have one person who hasn't been yet, but is planning to go. Very good to see that. That we also have some non-mobile students here who are in the future going to become mobile students. Very good. Of course, the panel discussion is going to be relevant for everyone, those who have experienced it and would like to utilize the outcomes, as well as those who haven't, so that you know what is ahead, so that you can prepare better. The pool is still going to stay open, so you can still continue answering the question, but please also stay logged in, like I said, in case you have the questions for the panelists. Now we can move on to the panel though, where we are going to start with our panelists. So I would like to maybe ask everyone participating in the panel to possibly turn on your cameras so that others can see you as well. Very good. Hi. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining in our panel discussion. Yeah, we can start with the first question, which would be how does the mobility experience contribute to the development of competences relevant to the labor market, in your opinion? We can start from Iona, she's the first one on my screen, but if you have anything to add, just feel free to catch on afterwards.
Okay. It's always tough being the first one, right? So I'll think about it from a personal experience, but also seeing people who I have gone through volunteering with in my section. I would say that from a personal point of view, studying a very rigid subject, it was quite hard to get experiences from anything apart from maybe an internship, which is hard to get anyway. So having a volunteering experience kind of gives you that level of understanding in a lot of different areas of skill set that you wouldn't necessarily get otherwise. I would say personally, one of my strongest skills is communication, but very much more on a written basis in terms of my degree. And going on a volunteering experience that we've all done is much more of an oral communication, for example. And that's something that you don't really get. And especially also from my point of view, my degree was very much, I studied in Scotland and everyone that was in my degree was all Scottish, because if you study law, you then stay in Scotland. So you don't really get that, you don't even get the national feeling of having people from England and Wales and Northern Ireland, never mind international students. It's not really something that you experience. So volunteering really gives you that edge of, if I did want to go into law, I'd be able to say that I had intercultural communication skills and worked with people in other places, which of course you get on exchange, but it's a short period of your life. Having to then continue that on a volunteering basis is something that you wouldn't necessarily get otherwise. And of course, there are so many other skills that you get from volunteering that I could go on and on about, but focusing on one or two specific ones, that is a big thing that I've found a lot of people from at least universities that I've come across, they wouldn't necessarily come across in any other way in their degree. And then going into the job market and trying to answer all of the difficult questions that you get in an interview or an application, and you really don't know how all of your skill set can help you from your degree. Having that extra thing that you can kind of add and make it a lot more and make yourself sound like you do a lot more than maybe anyone else that you've studied with is a fantastic way of just making you stand out, no matter what you want to go into, and help them realize that your CV is a lot more than just, yes, I studied this subject for 4 or 5 or 6 years, please hire me. You know, it gives you a lot more of an edge to show that you do other things with your life and you enjoy them. But yeah, I would say that's the biggest thing from my point of view, at least.
I can continue next, or yeah, that's how it works. I want to get Diana introduced me, but I work in consulting at the moment. So for Boringa Partners, which is UK-based firm actually, but we work in the Bulgarian office, and I'm actually at work now. But yeah. What Fiona just mentioned, I definitely agree with that. To be honest, like going back, because I did my exchange back in 2018, which seems like a century now, during my bachelor. Before that, I remember that before going to an Erasmus, I was like, okay, so why am I going? Like, what I'm going to do with my life and stuff like you don't really realize like it's a cool thing they promote to you in university. Like the international coordinator is there, and it's like, yes, go for it. It will be a life-changing experience. And you go there, and you're like, what happens next? But now, I do really think it develops a lot of relevant competences. First of all, I went to France, so like the curriculum that I studied in France, I was in management. I studied economics and finance, and there was I went to a management degree, like basically the equivalent there was management, which was actually really interesting for me because it was a bit different perspective, let's say, from being more data focused, for being more math focused and statistics focused. I went to a completely different environment, which was with completely new people. So first of all, soft skills, that it's like you're out of your comfort zone, you're there, you have to find new friends, you have to get along with everyone, basically. And I started studying more and more from a management perspective, hence a bit things that I'm doing now, like management consulting and so on. So for me, it was very interesting. And that's only that, like some of us like live in a dorm, or some of us live during university with our parents. So it kind of gives you also a sense of grown-up life, which it's also super useful when you actually get a job, be like your own independent person. It gives you just like a better mental health, in my opinion. So these are some of the things with me. Of course, I can speak on and on about it, but and it's just the way you present yourselves. Like every time you meet a new person during your exchange, you're like, hi, yes, this is me. I'm Petya. I'm doing this. I'm from Bulgaria, and so on. And then actually, when I started going to interviews and stuff, I realized it's basically the same thing. Like you've had a practice of 6 months to a year of going to interviews, because like every time you can do like, and you're getting better and better introducing yourself in the most interesting way. And you go to the interview and you're like, yes, I know what to say. I know how to be interesting. I can grab the HR. So those are some of the things, of course, like the other ladies will contribute a lot to that question.
I can continue next. Thank you, Petya. It was really interesting story. Hello, everyone from Georgia, or as in Georgian, we say Kamerjoba. I am Pikrieli Zarashvili, the Vice President of Eastern Georgia, and I'm really glad to be given this opportunity to share my experience with you today. I will answer this question based on my own experience. I was studying energy and electrical engineering at Georgian Technical University, and I consider myself to be lucky to be an Erasmus Plus exchange student twice in Poland, but at 2 different universities. Today, I am already a young women engineer, and you know, this career pathway is full of challenges, but also opportunities as well. I, as a woman engineer, have to cross over some stereotypes that are unfortunately widespread in my country, but not only in my country. So most of people here think that this job does not really fit a girl, and it's going to be hard for me to kind of overturn those smart men engineers who are doing their job straight. But here I am, 22 years old and already employed. Currently, I work at the largest company that operates in the renewable and alternative energy sector in Georgia, and I work as the lead project engineer. And of course, my Erasmus mobility absolutely had significant effect on my employability. And alternative energy field is not that much developed in my country. It is not even studied at universities, unfortunately. So I have used the knowledge gained from the European universities to deepen my understanding that helped me to get this job. Also, my home university was not equipped with up-to-date laboratories. And during my mobility, I was able to test some machines and perform laboratory works regarding alternative energy sources, like, for example, wind turbines or solar panels. And as a result, my combined theoretical and practical knowledge gained at different universities really helped me to perceive problems from the eye of the engineer. On the other hand, quality education from the European University is one of the key factors for employability in Georgia, because Georgia is a developing country that approaches to become a part of European Union. So here people always try to get the best practices from the developed and successful European countries. And actually that's true, because engineers always have to find solutions from diverse situations and kind of always get on-spot decisions. So I truly think that my Erasmus exchange helped me to enhance my knowledge and the skills required to make sound decisions in a rapidly changing electricity industry.
Thanks, Fikra. That was super interesting. I come from maybe a bit of a different field to you, because I've been working in politics and communication. And like Petra, I went on Erasmus in 2018. And I come from Malta, which is a really small island. Everybody's at the University of Malta is Maltese. So I grew up in kind of like that bubble. So when I went on the Erasmus exchange, I suddenly had I was immersed in this international community, which, exactly as the other panelists have said at the beginning, can be a bit shocking, because it's like you're having basically an interview with people every single day. We're like, hello, my name is Becca, I'm from Malta. Oh, Malta's really small, etc., etc. And so those 6 months sort of gave me the practice to sort of learn how to meet people who come from different backgrounds. And just as Tajana mentioned at the start, I later went on to work at the European Union and at the United Nations, and that was highly international. So because I had spent 6 months in the Netherlands in this international bubble, when I did start these next jobs, I kind of already knew how to be within an international bubble and how to meet people from different cultural backgrounds, and then okay, there are some things that I can say, or if I do want to say this, there's a way of saying it. I can't just blurt out the first thing that's in my mind. And so that was definitely an important skill set that I think when I had my interviews for these jobs, that kind of came out, because I was very prepared to say, oh yeah, no, I know that people are different and have different life experiences, and I'm sensitive to that and aware of that. And I think that sort of gave me a bit of an attractive edge when I sort of began working in these careers.
I can totally relate to what you, Rebecca, said. For me, at the beginning, when I came to when I went for the first time for my Erasmus, it was to Germany, to Bielefeld, when I was studying international business. It was study more related to economics, but since I am the volunteer in ESN for 5 years, before that exchange, I was doing a lot of PR related things with the marketing and communication. And also during my exchange, I managed to also get some of the subjects in that university, in the host university, from marketing as well. And additionally, the exchange, the ESN work gave me such a, let's say, boost of the energy that when I came back from my Erasmus experience, I decided to apply for the job in marketing field, which was not even related to my own marketing, to my own even subject that I was studying. And guess what? I got it straight away. I was really impressed, but I think for sure I can say that not only ESN, but also the Erasmus, the first one, of course, because it was back in after the first one, before the second and the third one, that gave me this amazing opportunity to not only practice, as Petya said, to know what to say about yourself, to, let's say, sell yourself to the employee, but also to show your the best skills.
And yeah, I know that for sure. I am so grateful that not only I could participate in Erasmus Plus exchanges 3 times, but I know that also the ESN work, being the volunteer, gives you so much and gives you the prospect for the future, and actually to be able to show so many things for your new or future employee.
It's beautifully said from all of you, all of us. I can relate a lot to Pigria, since I also studied engineering. It was civil engineering, so buildings, calculations, etc. was a part of my everyday kind of life. And I went to study it in the US, and then I came back to the Czech Republic. And of course, not only it gave me like studying there, I realized I do not know English at all in engineering. So at some points I was like, what are they speaking about? And I didn't know anything. And at that point, I really immersed into the field from a completely different way, let's say, because I didn't understand what they wanted from me, because I didn't know the terms. And that was a big shock. Yet it also gave me opportunity to really understand it better from many more angles. And also the US is kind of tricky with the metric not metric system. So that was a big challenge in the calculations for me. And then when I got back, everything was so much easier. At some point, it was like, I'm back, metrics is back, everything makes sense now again, because the feet and inches, it honestly, it tricks the mind, and pounds per square inch, it's like, yeah, you don't really want to calculate with that if you study in with metrics the whole time. And when I realized that it gave me the English was the moment when I had the interview in Brussels. I was interviewing for the IT company, and it was seen that I could fully understand everything the person was saying, and that I could express everything that I wanted to say, and it was in the international environment. And that was the moment when I realized how much the exchange has given me in the English speaking, let's say, point of view. And then also what it gave me was that I could tell the employee it was an IT company which was in multiple countries, and that I was supposed to be working in the multicultural team. And I was like, yes, I did that. Yes, I worked in the multicultural teams. Yes, I worked more than once in the multicultural teams. Yes, I can do the job. I can express myself fully in English, and I will be good fit because my engineering background helps me to understand IT as well, because I also has gotten some experience in that. So at that point I was like, wow, without that mobility, where would I be? You know, it was like, where would I be? Yeah.
Thank you very much for your contributions. Hearing you speak about that has been very inspirational, I have to say. And all of you have kind of touched upon the mobility experience being this kind of a transformative experience. And it's being reported time and time again that mobile students are more likely to change their field of study and to change their career paths than non-mobile students are. So I would like to ask you to kind of try to identify what has it been for you during your mobility, that factor that kind of contributed to that. I guess it's some sort of a courage to change your life around in the moment that not a lot of people would, even though this is kind of ridiculous because we are young, but I guess the society pressures us, you know, have your career figured out by a certain age. And I would like to ask you, what has been that moment for you, if you can identify it, and what is it in the mobility experience that really gives us this feeling that we can now change ourselves, change the world, and then actually go for it. Maybe this time we can start from Anna.
Yeah, sure. So for me, when I think about this, how to answer this question, like I like to imagine how actually I pursue Erasmus Plus student. For me, from every exchange that I went to be honest, I think that every Erasmus student is a really ambitious person. That, let's say, imagine we drop our university, not drop our university, we decided to continue our path of the studies that we work in the completely new environment, with the completely new studies, with not studies, but with the completely new university in a different country. Let's say we leave our family behind us, we leave our best friends who live out behind us, and we decided to go to 1 semester or 1 year abroad. And I know that not everyone is capable of. I believe that when we would ask some people on the student campus that, okay, you can live 1 year on half of a year somewhere abroad, would you agree on do that, leaving everything behind? I don't think everyone would answer yes, but every Erasmus student decided to answer that question as yes, I would. And for me, they are super ambitious people, and you can see how much they are willingness to self-develop, to grow and self-develop yourself. Also, they get so much from being that Erasmus experience. So for example, for me, when I went for the second Erasmus in Lisbon, I definitely started to be not only be able to, let's say, learning super fast from other people, being surrounded by the cultures, completely different cultures, and also being able to develop new skills in working in a team. So I think during that Erasmus experience, I decided and I saw by myself that this exchange is completely changing me, and that no matter how old are you, no matter what are you studying, you can change your life within 6 months or even 3 months, just only if you really want to. So this is what exchange, the second exchange, let's say, gave me. And yeah, I think this is really a nice thing to know, that there's nothing like you need to follow one path in life. There is nothing like that. Of course, as you said before, the environment pushes us to be somehow one way, but actually it depends only on you if you want to change your path. And because you live basically only once, so you decide what you do with your life. And I think Erasmus helps you not only realize that in a really short time, because you are not coming back to your own country as the same person. I don't know anyone who came back from Erasmus and being the same as before, because you change, you grow so much, you meet so many people that inspire you on an every basis days, and also you decide, like, I think this is such a magical thing with Erasmus that actually give you so much, let's say, energy and happiness to live and move forward, and being able to be not only live the life that you live, but be in charge of you want to live the life how you want to be.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting statistic that people change their career path after they go on Erasmus. I know for me, before I went on Erasmus, I had no idea what I was doing. So I picked English and International Relations at university. The reality was I wanted to do English, but you couldn't do it alone. So I thought, okay, like fine, I'll just take on international relations. And then when I went to the Netherlands, I had the opportunity to just pick anything I wanted. My course coordinator didn't have a set program that I needed to follow. So I picked communications and economics and political science, like just random things. And I just found like, okay, I find this interesting. And that was the really fun thing about Erasmus, was that you're essentially you're not at home. And I can't remember who mentioned it now, but like, yeah, you leave your best friends, you leave everything. So you get this opportunity to just kind of like experiment and try out. It's like just as many things as you like, and that's kind of what I did. And then that had me leaving, realizing that I actually quite like politics. Which I'd felt before, but before I didn't think that I could like get involved, because it just looked like something that was really like distant from me, and I had no way of getting involved. But because during Erasmus, that's kind of like what I was attracted to, so I kept taking on board opportunities that would sort of like lead me to that. I kind of like then went back to Malta and sort of like began to pick classes that would lead me into political science, and then led me into the jobs and now into the masters that I've got now. So I mean, I still don't know what the actual end goal will end up being. I still need to figure that part out, but I know at least like, okay, I've got like politics under my belt, and definitely 100% Erasmus is the reason that I know this.
Thank you, Rebecca. I will continue. To start from the very beginning, choosing the profession has not really a hard decision for me, because somehow I've always been fond of STEM subjects, and discovering new facts and ideas has always been a field of my interest. That's why exactly I decided to become an engineer, which I am today. I was studying at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering during both of my Erasmus mobility periods. Which is the same as my profession. And by the way, I was the only girl at the faculty at my home university who was studying electrical engineering. And I remember my very first time when I had interview for the Erasmus program, I entered into the big audience full of boys. And the very first question that came to me was, why did you choose engineering? You are a girl. And that moment, I really felt disappointed. But after this, when I did my first Erasmus mobility, somehow I became more self-confident and more independent. And I was more sure that engineering was exactly the profession which I wanted to follow and to success in. And when I did my second Erasmus mobility, and when there was the same question, like, why did you choose engineering? I was really confident, and I answered that because I wanted to work every day to make inventions that make our lives easier. And also, I did not feel disappointment, but I felt excitement because now I had a perfect chance to prove that a profession does not have a gender, and also a brain does not have a gender too. So I'm telling all this story because I always support women in engineering and generally try to empower women. And when it comes to my future plans, right now I'd like to start my own business one day that will have huge impact on the new technologies in electricity industry. And based on that, I want to contribute into the process against climate change, because I'm sure you know that power industry is one of the major polluters of our environment. And with this all, I want to be a good example for other young, smart, talented female engineers and show everyone that everything is possible. And in the 21st century, you know, there is no time to distinguish people, and we all have to work together as global citizens to solve today's problems and to build sustainable and successful future. So Erasmus mobility experience really helped me in this, because I met lots of young people who inspired me in this whole procedure. So I'm really thankful and grateful for this.
That's awesome. What came to my mind when you, Tayana, asked the question is that the kind of like three factors that I so far identified for my experience is that we usually do what we can imagine, or we see someone doing. So it's usually when we, let's say now, when it's also with the women empowerment, when we see other women in that field, we become more confident that we can accomplish it too. So when we go abroad, then we get inspired by other people with like, wow, I can do this. What? This is possible? Oh my God, I would be so good in that. and this becomes like, oh my God. And it's like aha moment right in our brain, and it never goes away. And that's the first thing. Then the other one was mentioned, it's that you can fully be you. And you can just, because you are outside of anyone who knows you, you can allow yourself to be you. And all of a sudden, so many people just like are like, oh my God, when I come back, I don't know what to do, because they know me like as someone else who I'm not. And now I'm here, I'm me, I'm happy, I'm successful, I'm just like living my true life. How do I explain to others that this is me? So so this is the second part that I have found that many people are having actually. And then the third one is that we live there, when we usually go, we live in complete discomfort, at least for some time. Some people do not have a nice exchange. I did not have a cute, happy exchange. I had a difficult, not happy exchange. I'm super grateful for it. I'm still learning from it, I would say. But the discomfort I went through, it was such a learning, I was just digging deep after it, especially not during it I was just living through it, but afterwards I was digging so much inside me to find out what really is within. And some people have it as a discomfort, like the positive discomfort, and some people have the negative discomfort, and both is great, because then we just grow tremendously from it. And all these factors, if you just create this dough kind of from these three ingredients, and then you bake it, and then you just have like a huge new recipe for exciting life that is like, oh my God, what did I choose to study, and how do I get, as Rebecca said, to the new field that I want to do? And then the journey begins, kind of.
Okay, I guess I'll go next. When Tayana asked this question, I had a perfect idea in my head of how to answer this. And having listened to a lot of people's different opinions on how they've interpreted the question, and their experiences have almost made me feel quite emotional, I'm not gonna lie, but it's just everyone is so completely different of how they experienced the impact that it had on them. And I guess for me, I am in a country that is in some ways very modern and innovative in their ideas and their concepts, but in other ways so entrenched in the historical aspects of it. So having studied law, it is kind of expected that that is what you will do. You know, there's no support in the university to go into anything else except legal practice. And it's the same opinions that you hear from your friends and your family and any of the professors. You know, you'll be sitting in a lecture and they can tell that you're not really enjoying it that much, and they'll be like, well, this is what you'll be doing anyway for a life. And you're just like, oh my goodness, really? So going on exchange, really, it shows you a different opinion and a different way that people treat a degree. And having been surrounded by people from across Europe and from, I don't know, even Australia and America and Canada, where you would expect some of those countries to have very similar opinions, but they're not. It's very overwhelming to kind of have the choice of subjects that you want to do, and they're completely different. Like learning about Indigenous people across the world compared to, I don't know, something like contract law, you know, it's so completely different, and it shows you a new aspect. And I discovered when I was there that I really enjoyed researching, and I didn't enjoy the reading statutes and legislation as much, but I really did enjoy the writing all of the papers and researching a new aspect of a policy area that you didn't really know about before. And that's what showed me what I was interested in. But then coming back for my final year, I kind of want to touch upon this because it's not really been done before. That was probably the hardest year of my degree because I knew where I wanted to be and I knew what I wanted to do. My thought process around my whole degree and future had changed completely from when I started my degree. But coming back and saying, okay, I don't want to do a lot, I want to do this instead. And your professor's going, no, that's not happening. And your parents kind of going, can you do that with a law degree? Like it's quite hard to keep your beliefs firm and decide and talk to yourself like, no, this is what you want to do. And this is what you discovered on your Erasmus. And this is what you enjoyed studying. And why would you not want to do it for a career, you know? So it is so enlightening to realize something that you would love to do for a living, but it's hard to keep it alive. And when you do, it is incredible. But it's just something that kind of struck me that's not really talked about that much. And I am a great advocate now for, you know, if you study law, you don't need to go into law. Like there are so many other avenues, you just don't get told about it. And I've come across so many people afterwards having come up to me and be like, well, why did you not study law? Like, why did you not then go into a law firm and finish your degree? Because that's what it's seen as. And it's very frustrating, but it's something I try to do a lot now to kind of, if I'm talking to a law student, be like, you know, there's all of these things as well. And if you enjoy this, you could do this instead of law. But it's just something that's not talked about. And I really wouldn't have ever even considered not going into law and probably being miserable for the next couple of years of my life before being brave enough to make the change. It's not something that I would have even considered if I hadn't gone on exchange. So yeah, it was a really enlightening experience for me. And I think probably for a lot of other degrees, yes, but just especially from my experience and background, it was just completely different to the traditional aspect of a law degree, you know. But yeah, I'll stop talking now.
Actually, what Diana is saying, I have friends that have the absolutely same story. After the exchange, they're like, I have law degree, but I want to do that. So it sometimes can be definitely eye-opening. For me, it was kind of different though. Like before I went to my Erasmus, I was doubting myself a lot, meaning that like, did I make the right choice? Like second year student, did I make the right choice? Did I what I'm going to do with my life? I have so many choices. Probably I chose the wrong career path at all. Like I don't want to do anything in the field ever, and I'm going to be jobless and homeless, and like that's my life. My mom will crush me, and all of the things that cross your mind. But when I actually went to my exchange, because I was in Audencia Business School in France, so a bit more detailed focused, a bit more practical focused, I was okay. Yeah, probably I made the right choice. I just wasn't confident enough to realize it. So it just made me think a little bit more to not like be in the conventional sense of accounting, let's say finance. People usually consider accounting, especially if you're outside of the area, which definitely is not that, because you have like so many so many options and so on. So it kind of got me thinking out of my comfort zone, got me thinking of like different career options. I did try other jobs before my current one, but for me, a funny thing is because I kind of think it's all related, because from personal perspective, I went to an Erasmus. After the Erasmus, as some of the other people here, I joined the Erasmus Student Network as a volunteer. Overall, the exchange and volunteering did make me talk a lot more than I used to. Those that know me know. So after that, I kind of like got more and more involved in the network, which also made me like share my experience, like have something to share, make me bond with different people, and also develop connections, which actually did introduce me to the right people that actually recommended me and like opened my eyes for the current company I'm working in. So they're like, yeah, you seem like you have the skills, you have the knowledge. Um, so, and basically, yes, I wouldn't have met those people if it hasn't been like for the step taking the exchange. I wouldn't have met those people. I wouldn't have that environment. And once that I actually like once I joined the current company I'm working in, what like it really struck me, it was that I like all of the people here like have been like, because consulting it's really related to traveling if you don't have COVID, of course, and also like communicating to like various like so many different environments from people over the world. You have to be super sensitive and culturally correct. You have to be like any way possible correct. You have to also know how to speak with people on their language, no matter if they're a CEO or like I don't know, the someone like a support desk. So it doesn't really matter, like it's all over the levels. And I noticed that one of the things that we like I like, because like it's really valued even through interviews, is international experience. It could be an exchange, it could be a work abroad, it could be a degree abroad. And this was one of the things like that, just like if they see it, they're like, yes, 10 points to Gryffindor. But yeah, so it's kind of it, and it like the people, and like you bond over that also, because like you go, and on the first day at work I was like, I have something to speak with them, like they're obsessed with their exchanges as well, and like developed like similar skills, and like they all appreciate it. And also not only that, but from practical perspective, like if you've lived abroad in some way, it doesn't matter, like even broader term than exchange, you kind of are happy with changing environments, you're happy with meeting new people, you really don't mind if you like you're one day you do this and then you have to be super adaptive and turn your way. So it's kind of, you have like the flexibility and things like people are looking for in a job, which yeah, it's, I think it's all kind of related. So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Again, listening to you is really inspirational, and also very speaks to me also on a personal level, since I think we all went through a similar process, just in a slightly different way, depending on where we were in life and what we were actually studying and where we wanted to go. And while I was listening to you, you also cite quite a lot that you became more open-minded, that you became more reflective, adaptive. So I would also like to ask you more about how did you use your mobility experience to advance in the career that you're currently in? So if you can maybe identify the competences that you actually gained during your mobility that helped you gain these opportunities, as well as the competences that are currently helping you perform better in your job. So something that you can say, I went on this exchange and I experienced this, and because of this reason, I gained this skill or this competence, and now I'm better for it. And for the experience that I'm currently having, I am performing much better in it. Maybe we can start from Petya.
Hello again.
Oh.
Becca or Petya?
Yeah. I think Petra, you should go.
Okay, yeah, I got confused, sorry. So I already mentioned communication. I'm not going to like I'll stress about it probably a lot, but like definitely communication skills. That's a must. That's what you like, it makes you progress your career a lot. And also, as mentioned like 2 minutes ago, it gives you the way to talk to people, like the right way. So you can definitely like talk with your manager, let's say, and know like what you want and know how to say it and say it in a professional and correct way, politically correct, let's say. So you also can know what you're happy and not happy about, and also like improve your even work, like improve your workplace, I guess, because you've been through change, you've been through different environments, you know how it is, you know what could be better. And if you have the organizational mindset in mind, definitely. And also one thing is connections, because most of the people you meet during your exchange are in your field of studying. So these people, nevertheless, they're from all over the world. They could be 5, they could be 50, they could be 500. It really depends. Those people you exchange, like you still stay in touch, like Instagram, Facebook, social media and stuff like that, but you talk, like someone finds a LinkedIn, especially like you find a new job, you ask for advices, you can see what they're developing at. Some people you like, so before I went, I got this job. I was working for Fox, the television, as a data analytics intern, which also kind of led me to my career path. And one of the best things is like me finding out that one of my friends from exchange, she was in Portugal. She's from Portugal, from Lisbon, is being an intern in another department for the same company. So basically we could chat over Skype, like we got back together because like we are the same workplace and we kind of had work to do together, which was also one thing I never expected. And it was kind of a funny coincidence. And like, it's not super related to advancing your career, but you could use that. Like you can find, especially if you're planning to go somewhere, all of us work in different international companies, even like Margarita will probably share, but like if you're planning to have a startup, like a friend of mine has a startup and he went to an exchange and like half of his startup at the moment is from ex-Erasmus students in his field that they studied together. So like it's like trading and stuff like that from international environments. So it's like you can go all, I'm getting all over the place, so I'll give the full floor to everybody, but it's like super broad, like you just can't imagine. But yeah.
Yes. I feel kind of addressed, and at the same time, I really want to speak about it too. So connections is definitely a thing that I can ask someone for help. I can ask someone for support and know that that we have a deeper connection and that we can share a lot more in depth. It is very important. And yes, if I would, let's say, set up a list of people who I would contact if I wanted to, I don't know, create a team of people, I would definitely go back to either ESN or exchange period of time, because this is when I connected really deeply with people. And this is when I got to know them on a more on a deeper level than just like, hello, my name is Margarita. So that's for sure. It created such a huge, powerful network in my head, and it's just beautiful. And I'm happy that I can be here for other people too in this way. What happened to me? So back to the question about what it developed that helps me now in the career. Well, so after I did civil engineering and then did IT, I realized that neither is fulfilling me, at least not in those ways that I was doing them. And I realized that I really want to empower youth at this current moment, because the school system is the way it is, and I find it quite limiting, and that it should change. And I was thinking on which level I would like to address it, and I decided to address it directly with the youth, because it is more the connection. I find it easier to youth than to go through the institutional changes currently. And so asking what exchange gave me to feel confident enough to do it is that it gave me such discomfort and such great, as I said, for me, it was a stressful moment of my life. For me, it was a difficult moment of my life. And I was a year abroad completely, like it was a different continent, and I felt really lonely and really unhappy. And when I came back, I had a tremendous work to do, let's say. Okay, I was really coming back. I was working on myself with experts as well, because I felt like, okay, I need someone to help me out with this, because this is like way too big for what I can handle by myself. And that I digged so deep, it gives me now the confidence that I can help other people to dig into themselves. Because what I want to do is to help youth to find out what they like to do and what they are good at, and to be able to speak about it, to be able to like name it. You know, it's the moments that we just kind of know what we like, but we don't know how to name it, and then we don't know like what to choose, because we do not know if the name would fit what we have kind of in mind. And this is what I want to address. This is what I want them to be able to say, hey, I like this, and this, and this is why I'm choosing this career, because this is kind of, at the moment, it seems that it would be a good fit. So for me, that steep that I went down, it gave me such a big power now to be able to support them too, because I know how difficult it can be, and that being now vulnerable about this experience and sharing it with the full expansion, full like, yes, here I am, this is who I am, this is what I've been through, and I would like to help you out, so you would have a much smoother way, and you would not need to dig deep. You can just, you know, go and find, it's two concepts. One of them is Satori and Kensho moments. So Satori moments is kind of like enlightenment moments, when you're like, oh, I think I like that. Oh, let's move in that direction. I think, yes, let's move this way. And it kind of like flows, and you kind of discover new paths. And the Kensho moment is the moment when life, I believe that all of us have been through some like boom. And now you're like in depth, and now it's like, what do I do now? And life like gives you this moment, so you can reflect on what you want. And this is a deep Kensho moment, that it's like, what do I do now? And this is two paths that you can choose. And when we do the enough of like this enlightenment moments, we don't need to do the Kensho. But if we don't, then the Kensho comes, and it's very strong and difficult. And this is what it gave me. It gave me the big Kensho moment, and now I would like to help others not to have that moment. So this is how my mobility has shaped my life, like truly a lot. And this is what I gained from it, and the competence that I feel like I can give to people, and the credibility that I feel in myself in this. Yeah.
Margarita, that was wonderful. That was so nice to listen to. When you were talking, I was just thinking my Erasmus experience was maybe the flip side to yours. I found a group of friends, and I was very lucky too that we had spent the 6 months together as quite a strong unit. And what was very interesting is that we learned a lot about each other's characters, each other's highs and lows, and then learned how to kind of like mediate each other's moods, and how to like bring people up if, you know, sometimes when you're abroad and you're alone, you feel a bit low. So we learned that about each other, and how to kind of like help each other out. And then, like I said, I worked in the United Nations in Bangkok, and then European Parliament in Brussels, and now I'm studying in Dublin. So I've moved a lot since. And so what Erasmus gave me was like this idea that it's very, very important to have your little community of people, and to learn how to, exactly as Margarita said, like get through the very like, you know, enthusiastic high moments and the very sort of like deep low moments as well. And what I found interesting was that when I was in Brussels, we were a small team and we were dealing with a lot of stress, especially because a lot of our work was happening when COVID was happening. So more than just the work that we had to get through, there was a lot of like motivation that we had to do for each other. And I found myself kind of like falling back on the kind of like little methods that I had learned when I was on Erasmus. And that kind of like really helped push through this very difficult moment. And I think that is like kind of the best thing that I learned from Erasmus, just how to be, because I mean, when you go into the office, you're in a team, you're always going to be with a team of people. So I learned essentially how to be in a team and how to sort of like keep pulling through.
I will continue. I absolutely agree with girls that Erasmus Plus forever will be one of the most memorable experiences of my life, because it's the period during when my new me was born. I started realizing things in a brand new way and started to perceive the world with a new eye. And the most important, I have created the strong friend zone from all over the globe. Besides my Erasmus mobility, I am volunteering in Eastern Georgia since 2018, and our section is doing a great job when it comes to experience sharing and, you know, spread the information about Erasmus programs. To get back to the point, at the work, besides my engineering responsibilities and duties, I have to contact and work with stakeholders, different stakeholders, customers and vendors. And my mobility and ESN volunteering experiences absolutely helped me a lot at work because, you know, it gave me an opportunity to develop my skills like leadership and team working, communication and networking, time and resources management, that is really important, good research practice, and the very important things that I can to take decisions independently. So as the result, when I started working, I already had experience which made the adaptation process easier for me. And I think employers also can feel this. And also my Erasmus mobility helped me to learn how to make lemonade out of lemons, like how to work for my goals and my dreams and how to shape my future myself. So it's like this.
For me personally, what was the first thing that came to my mind when I heard the question was the great team working that was already mentioned, but additionally the fast problem solving, since it's kind of, let's say, goes together. Since you are going on Erasmus, some of the subjects you are going to pass as a presentation, or maybe it's one part of the grade. And with working with the different people from different cultures, from different, let's say, habits, how to do the presentations, how to work in a team, you learn a lot. And sometimes the problems occurs, and it's totally normal thing that is happening. But I think because of the exchange and thanks to the exchange, I completely, and I don't think that I am an expert, but for sure I'm in an advanced level, that I know how to how to solve the problems with the team and how to find a good solution, and also how to find the fast solution and how to think different ways, how to consider different ways of doing things, not only doing one way and that's the one and proper way, but also listening to the others and communicate within the group. So I think that was the first thing that I thought about, and it's for sure thanks to the exchange that I did.
For me, I would say that there's two parts of it, the kind of the short-term thing that I do right now and the long-term goal that I would like to reach for my career. So in terms of, I'll do it a bit backwards, but in terms of the long term, I've already mentioned, like, I wouldn't really have realized quite how much I enjoy researching and writing, and I don't know, even like summarizing policy papers and things like that. And even just talking to people. I went on Erasmus and I was a very introvert person. I came back and I could actually talk about myself and approach people for the first time since I can even remember. And those things are, if I didn't go on Erasmus or my mobility experience, I probably would have never developed those skills, to be honest. And as Anna said, I'd never made a presentation in my life. I never had to use a presentation tool. The only thing I'd used before was Microsoft Word. So having that kind of forcing yourself into do group work, which is also something I didn't do, and then making a presentation in front of the class, surrounded by Swedish people who arguably have even better English than British people, kind of put you on the spot quite a bit. So it really taught you to adapt and actually pick up things a lot quicker. You know, you had to learn how to use PowerPoint, otherwise you would not have you would have struggled. So yeah, for long term, it definitely did help a lot. In terms of short term, finding a love for international cultures and learning about them kind of taught me how to learn about them and how to talk to people from other countries. And that is part of what I do for my job. I have to talk to people from other countries to try and find partners for our own businesses that we work with. And I have to mention that when I went on exchange, the first thing that I did was find my ESN section and join it. And that was the first thing that I did. And without that volunteering experience, I joined as a communication manager, having no experience of communication. But doing that, I learned how to control social media pages, how to do graphic design, how to create events. And those skills are things that I use on a daily basis on my job now. And that is the only reason I got the job that I have today, because I had experience working with international people. I can control social media pages to some kind of degree, and I can make graphic designs and run events, which are the three components along with research that my job is. So without it, I actually applied for a different job. And having looked at my experience, the person interviewing me said, you're probably not going to get this one, but there's another opening that really suits your CV a lot better because of your experience on mobility. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll apply for that then. So it definitely opened a lot of doors that I wouldn't have had before. And continuing to volunteer and think back on my mobility experience about all the skills, it still helps me get better at the things I do. Looking back at things that, even doing some graphic designing today and looking back at my first attempt, it's crazy how much my skills have grown, you know, and it's not so much mobility as much volunteering, but without the mobility, I wouldn't have been involved in it. So I think they definitely go hand in hand and is worth mentioning both.
Thank you very much for your contributions. Again, definitely spoke to me. I think that for me, it was going on exchange and having to make my own budget and having to manage it. And then I did the same with my ESN section. So definitely everything that we do kind of connects to the pathways that we choose later on in life. Actually, we got one very interesting question on Slido from the audience. So we can go into that one just to spice it up a little bit. And the question is, the exchange experience played a role in your current employment in the home countries, and it made you want to give back to your society. Would you still move abroad? Anyone who feels ready or has an answer in their mind can give that. Can give an answer. So I'm not going to call upon anyone.
I can start because I've actually given it a thought. So I think it's a tricky question, especially since I'm from Bulgaria. But the thing is, for me, I would prefer personally to stay here, but I would easily go work abroad for a few years, meaning that in my future development plan, if I can, I really want to work for a year or two abroad, like, which would definitely give me the opportunity to like have different views, have other things in mind and so on. But I would like in the long term to stay here, which was actually confirmed by my exchange. So that's me.
I will also answer. I came back to my home country because I really want to make my even little contribution into development of Georgia's power system. So my plans was not to stay abroad for living and working, but I absolutely think that Erasmus mobility gives you opportunity to go on the international labor market and be very strong and good and smart, talented candidate for other, and I mean to be competitive to others.
Yeah, I would say from my perspective, because I traveled a lot after Erasmus, but I wouldn't. I would say that what Erasmus showed me is that anywhere you are, you can make a contribution. So just because maybe I pre-Erasmus had this idea, like I said, Malta is small, that I wanted to get away from that island. What Erasmus showed me, because exactly as Petra had said in the beginning, you repeat time and time again, I'm from Malta and this is what Malta is like, etc. You begin to think like, wow, I come from a great place, and you hear other people talk about their own countries and you think, why have I not done that in my country? Like, why have I not gone on these hikes, for example, or why have I not have this like love for my country that this person is showing? So when I went back, I began like experimenting at home, which is a bit weird. Like, I tried to be an Erasmus student in my own country, and then I was like, wow, I really, really love this place. But then at the same, so the way I see it is that it's not like there's home and there's abroad. I think there are like a bunch of opportunities, and wherever you land, as long as you are like showing respect to where you are and enjoying where you are and meeting interesting people, it's always going to be beneficial.
For me personally, I can relate to Rebecca so much, because I truly think literally the same as you. But also what I would like to add, that for me, that doing free exchanges give me this kind of, let's say, overview that I feel, of course, I'm from Poland and I feel Polish, but I feel more European than I was before even first exchange. And I feel that for sure, I would see long-term myself being in Europe, just because of I did Erasmus experiences in Europe and I feel more European. So I would like to, let's say, be a part of development of Europe. So I think that's what brings me. So yeah.
When I went to Sweden and Norway, the Nordic countries even. I mean, I did go to Norway, but besides the point, I really learned how big a country can be, but how small it can feel and vice versa. I always identify more as Scottish than British, but I kind of realized quite how small Scotland was, but how many opportunities there were. And when I was in Sweden, I kind of experienced a little bit of the opposite. Like, Sweden is a massive country, but realistically their population isn't massive and it's very condensed. And for all the opportunities, you kind of switch between there and the other Nordic countries as well, such as Copenhagen, because it's across the water in Denmark. And this is slightly diverting, but I kind of realized that I would love to be able to do a job where I can at least travel and be in other places. But I think long term, I would actually like to go back to the Scandinavian countries and work there. And that is my long term ambition. I just don't know when it'll happen. And I thought it would happen a lot sooner than it probably will now, with the word that I don't like saying, but Brexit. It is probably going to be a little bit harder for me, but it's not deterred me at all. I just feel like I need to have more experience to justify applications to other countries, especially when I'm not bilingual or anything. So that's another thing, but it's just shown me, I've always thought that I was terrible at languages, and I am terrible at learning languages. But if you're living in a country, you tend to pick up words and phrases, and I at least got to a level where I could understand basic Swedish, even if I struggled to speak it myself. So it did kind of show me, even though it will probably be a struggle for me to get a job in a place where I don't speak the language, that was always the biggest barrier in my head to moving abroad. And it showed me that it isn't really as much of a barrier as I thought it was, and it is a lot easier to move country and work in a different place than I originally anticipated.
Wow, beautiful story. What slightly all of our stories remind me of is so-called it's a concept called a hero's journey. And it's a concept that speaks about a hero going on a journey and going to, you know, from the home, going somewhere to do something that they need to do. And they go on the journey and they learn a lot and they meet different people. Then they do the thing that they were supposed to do. And then they come back, kind of, they come home, but they don't come home as the same person. They come home as a different person with different knowledge and with also a different mindset as well. And then they bring all that knowledge back home, and this is a heroic journey. And it is seen in many movies, in many in different other let's say, how do you call it, the stories for little kids, etc. But it can also be applied very much to the Erasmus and mobility and the overall any well, any journey that we do, but that we went abroad and then we learned something new. We learned how other people speak. We learned how other people think. We learn about their culture differences. Something inspired us, and then we come home, and we see that the attitude, the people didn't change, but we did, and we bring that back, and we change the world around us based on what we have learned. And this is kind of the hero's journey, and we become a part of it. If we allow ourselves to be the hero, we then bring it back, and it don't necessarily need to be at the same place. It can be, but it can be also, let's say I'm originally from Russia. I'm now majority of my life I lived in the Czech Republic, and I went to the US, I went to Brussels, and then I came back now to the Czech Republic to implement some of the changes in the school system, let's say, right? Because I've studied in the Czech Republic for the majority of my life, and I was like, okay, where would I do this kind of change? Well, it would not be in Brussels because I did not study there. It would be in the Czech Republic. This is my hero's journey, kind of coming back to the home base. The same with the community gardening that we are now launching with my partner in the city, so we can also bring people closer to nature. We would not do it in Brussels because this was not our base, but this is where we've learned it, and now we're bringing it here. I could also do a journey back to Russia, but currently I do not feel an urge to go there. I choose not to. This is not my journey at the moment. But I like this concept to think of it as like, do we need to come back? So yes, and when you feel the calling, you feel it, and it's at the moment it comes, and it's like, yes, I need to come back, and it is not reversible. It's just, you know, that you need to go back, and it's like, damn. Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing your experiences. I hope that the person who asked the question also feels inspired by your answers. I know that I do. I can also find myself in them. Pikria, please go.
Yes, I just wanted to add that Erasmus is definitely about opening minds and changing lives. So if you have not still taken part into Erasmus programs, I will definitely recommend you to try it as soon as possible.
Indeed, very, very nice words for the ending. I also like how I think you broke some of the stereotypes with your answers, because a lot of countries see exchanges as brain drain instead of brain gain, like many of you have now said. So they do not promote it because they think that people are going to see better life outside of the country. But like you did say, international experiences often empower us to appreciate more of what we do have, and to see our own country through someone else's eyes, and to think, why did I not see this beauty before? So it is quite interesting, but it also does empower this international experience, and we can always work in an international environment while staying national, which is a good and I guess a plus of a globalized world. Before we wrap up, though, I would have one final question for you to reflect on, because you did say lot of things about the competences that you have gained from your experiences. But I would like to ask you, when you try to get a job and when you speak about your mobility experience in a professional setting, so maybe when you were sitting in an interview in front of a recruiter or an employer who was trying to understand your mobility experience, because I'm sure all of you know that you got emotional, right, while speaking about it and reflecting on it. And sometimes not even your friends understand what you went through, that you became a different person. So it's also for a stranger, such as an employer, to grasp this concept if they haven't experienced it before. So I would like to have your opinion on how do you think that, how well do you think that the mobility experiences are recognized in a professional settings by employers and recruiters? Do they see them as something that is positive and something that they would take into account when employing a candidate? And is there something that you think can be done in order to empower the mobility experience and make it a more of a stronger asset in the eyes of a recruiter or an employer? Fikria, maybe we can start from you.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Diana, for an interesting question. Well, in my viewpoint, adding mobility experience in your CV makes you a socially active, communicative, and kind of, smarter applicant for the employers, and indicates your European experience, which is highly appreciated in Georgian labor market. Usually when I was on the job interviews, my employers asked me what Erasmus was about, and I usually answer that it's a big step into the world of opportunities, because it means lots of experiences, adventures, self-development, and quality education. To make mobility experience, a stronger asset in the eyes of the recruiters, I think Erasmus alumni should prove them that Erasmus generation are the people who breaks the stereotypes, and they are dedicated, enthusiastic people who want to have a greater impact on the society despite gender, religion, ethnicity, and the race. And they really make world into a better place to live in. So, once Erasmus, always Erasmus. Well, thank you.
Okay, so I can go next. So I truly agree with everything what you said, because this is basically what I was thinking. But for me, when I applied for this first job after my first Erasmus experience, I based my experience with the marketing and communication just on the things that I was doing in ESN before. Since I joined section 5 years ago, I was looking for that first job 4 years ago after my exchange, or no, it was 3 years ago. So I didn't have any other, let's say, things to put in my CV. I put ESN. So I put everything what I was doing in my volunteer work, and I, let's say, show it the way what I was doing, and the recruiters appreciated that much because they value the things like I was doing different normal pay jobs. So for me and my experience, I can say that the volunteer work definitely gave me the ability to, let's say, shine in the recruiters' eyes, because they see usually the job, the name of the job, but actually the name, it doesn't give you anything until you start to describe what things you done in the work. So if you describe everything what you done in ESN work, for example, in the volunteer work, it's sometimes, and usually it ended up that you are doing sometimes way much than actually in normal work, in normal environment. So I think this is really value, that this gives you so much opportunity to only not put you on what you can put on the CV, but also shine in the recruiter's eyes. So basically that's all. And now when I was basically looking for jobs, I was putting, of course, my Erasmus experiences, and I also got a lot of questions answering why so many, why I did 3, not 1, what brought me to actually doing 3. And I think this is always a great thing to, let's say, talk about yourself, your interests. And this is another opportunity to shine in the recruiter's eyes.
for me, as I already mentioned, like my exchange was kind of like what they were looking in the CV. Like for my they were like, because I also do like support a little bit with recruitment. Now it's what we're actually looking for, and I think that's the case for many companies. So something like that is just like it makes it a match. And also in terms of interviews, from like I definitely agree with the girls. It gives you like, also it's super important the way you present it from both sides, because like the way you talk about your Erasmus, it's going to make the impression, because like, yes, this person like learned a lot, like has this amazing culture and has this amazing knowledge, soft skills and so on developed through various activities, and this is the way you should do it, and this is the way you should say it, and be as hyped you are now, as hyped we are now about it, rather than, yeah, I went abroad, it was nice. Because the way you present it, probably the person standing in front of you already did an exchange. I think like so many people of us have been on Erasmus, especially in Europe. It's like kind of, especially in the companies we want to work with, in usually people already did it. So it's a, first of all, it's definitely a bonding thing also. I've had that questions like, where did you learn French? Like, could you recommend me French classes? Or I loved Paris. So it's just like a bonding thing during interviews. It can be a small talk, but it gives you, I don't know who said it, an edge, something to be more interested, something to be more interesting with. And also the way you put it in your CV, it has to be there. Like I've seen people that don't put it in their CV, which is like a big mistake, like probably the biggest. And it just, yeah, it makes you stand out. You have to put it like up there. You have to put it with your education in bright letter, what you studied, like what you focused on, like the university with all caps and everything. So shout it out from the rooftop and it will get you to the right places.
Beautifully said. I love this shouting from the rooftop. It's so very important for me too, and I think it's important to distinguish if we sit in front of a recruiter who did an exchange, or who lives abroad currently, or who lived abroad and has the experience, and who did not. So if we stand on the opposite of the recruiter who loves exchanges, who went through something like that, they usually appreciate it a lot. They are very excited about it too, because they went through a similar thing, through that like aha, this is who I am, you know, at that moment, and they can relate to it. It's the emotion that we share. It's not the same experience, but it's the emotion that we share over the exchange, and this is a big bonding. So for that, it's great. If the recruiter did not go through it, it might be a bit difficult to explain what it was about. So it is good to prepare yourself for this scenario. When the recruiter did not have this experience, how would you explain it to someone who doesn't know what it is about? Like, and how would you get them excited about it actually? And so they can relate to it, and they can see, oh, this is why, oh, why didn't I do it too? Because it sounds like such an exciting thing, and wow, you are great that you've done it, you know. This is what you want to evoke in them. And this is something that I myself have struggled with a few times to formulate it the way that people would understand, you know. So I think this is the most important, to know how to say it in the way that others would understand who didn't go through it. And the same goes with volunteering. If people did not volunteer, they might have struggles with like, what is this? I do not get this part. Like, can you explain me what it means? Others who volunteered are like, oh yes, this is great that you are doing it. So it's important that we train ourselves, those of us who did volunteer or did exchange, to communicate it, to know how to say it in the way that it would be relatable to others, that it would evoke that emotion that we share, you know, that feeling that we have, to, yes, communicate it. So this is, I think, most important. And then it's kind of about the luck at the same point too. But yeah, let's keep it there, the communication about what we've experienced.
I was going to say something that was essentially the exact same as Margarita, but I'll just add to it. also what Petra said, it has always been at the very top of my CV that I went on exchange. And if it's a job, for example, if it's some kind of sustainability thing, I did an international environmental law module. So I always add that in, just kind of to make it slightly more connected, you know, opposed to just an abstract, oh yeah, I went on exchange. I have to say I've always been very lucky because my recruiters have always either gone on exchange themselves, so they really understand what it is and they don't even question why I did it. It's more just, what was your experience? And if not that, it's someone who maybe has children that have gone on exchange, so they've at least experienced it second or third hand. But yes, what I was going to say, backtracking to when I started talking, was I hear what Margarita's saying. When you're trying to explain it, if you prepare it in your head, it's very important to be able to actually explain and demonstrate why you did it and what you got out of it and how those skills are transferable to the job that you're applying for. But don't only think of the emotive side. That is amazing, especially if it's a smaller company or organization that you're applying for, because the application form and the questions that they're filling out in front of you during the interview are probably slightly less relevant if you really pull their heartstrings and show that you are really the right person. If it's for a bigger organization, they have to go through a specific process and have very specific answers to the questions. And as much as I hate to say it, if you're pulling at them and their emotive edge and part of themselves, that will definitely show that you're passionate, that you care about things, that you will do this and that and be amazing. But if you don't say the right specific exact words that they want to hear, it won't get you anywhere. So think not only about how you would elevate your pitch it, you know, that 1 minute of answering the question and explaining it. Also think about the key words and phrases that you should maybe be using. I'm sure if you Google keywords and phrases to put on a CV, you'll come up with a whole list of them. But definitely think about those, you know, key things that they might be listening out for that are specific to that job, for example. Because often it's not just reading through your CV and pulling out things, it's also following a very specific question list that they have to get filled out. So yeah, focus a little bit on that as well.
Definitely. Just when I was thinking, everyone's made such great points, and I thought, I've got this one little nugget nobody's mentioned. Iona's gone ahead and mentioned it. I was actually going to say that yeah, all these ladies here have hit the nail on the head. It's exactly that you want to show exactly what you've gained from your Erasmus experience, but you want to make it relevant to the job. Recently, I got rejected for a job, and when I asked them what was wrong with my CV or my cover letter, that was exactly their response. They said, we understood that you had an exchange and that you gained a lot from it, but we do not know how you saw that applying to the job. So it's very, very important to be technical and to like think about the job that you're applying for, as well as all of the benefits you've gained from your time abroad.
Thank you all very much for sharing those experiences with us and for representing the Erasmus generation in this panel. I think that, like you said, the more exchange students that we have, the more of them become employers and recruiters, the more people are going to understand that feeling. And with the numbers increasing, hopefully that is going to increase as well. Thank you very much for participating in the panel and for joining us for this time being. I'm sure that you have inspired many people and that you will continue doing so in the future.